that, within which cooperatives can operate, cooperatives and mutuals, our understanding of how they are defined legally, how they can be established, how they can operate. And the interest to us is, of course, the concerns we may have about the difficulties in establishing cooperatives, the difficulties with accounts, and the framework within which cooperation actually operates. So the work of the Law Commission at the moment is really important. Today's event is really an opportunity to hear from the Law Commission, to also hear from a number of other experts, which I'll introduce as we go along today in this first part of this morning session. And then there'll be an opportunity for questions and for discussion. And what is important, I think, is the opportunity that participants will have to express certain views in respect of how the law operates at the moment, what's working, what's not working, what might need to change, because the view will be then whatever recommendations eventually come from the Law Commission, and they will have a consultation, is that we want to maximise the participation of cooperators within that consultation to influence and ensure that the legislative framework actually works for the development of cooperatives and mutuals within Wales and within the UK across the board. So that's my short introduction today. What I'd like to do now is introduce Dr. Nathan Tamblyn. Nathan Tamblyn is the key person who's going to be, I think, leading that review, and he's here to talk about the work that the Law Commission will be doing, and he'll also be, as well as contributing, will be listening as well. So, Dr. Nathan Tamblyn, thank you for joining us today. I will go over to you. I think we have 10 minutes per speaker, so when we get towards that 10-minute point, I'll do a very, very gentle and diplomatic just reminder that we're coming towards the end of time to enable us to complete all the contributions during this first session. So if I can go straight over to Dr. Nathan Tamblyn, are you there ready to join us?
I am. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for inviting me today. And thank you to everybody who has joined us. I am the lead lawyer on this project at the Law Commission. As you've just heard, the Law Commission is the official law reform body for England and Wales. We were created by statute and have a duty to keep the law under review and suggest reform where needed. We are a so-called arm's length body, which means that our opinions are independent. We have been asked by the Treasury to review the Cooperative and Community Benefit Societies Act 2014 to ensure that it is fitting to the needs of societies and that regulation is proportionate. So I'm sure everyone here knows the 2014 Act is the statute which regulates cooperatives and community benefit societies. So far in this project, we have been talking informally with a wide range of stakeholders, and we are now writing up our consultation paper. This will be published in the summer. The consultation paper discusses the current law and makes provisional proposals for reform. It asks stakeholders for their views on those proposals. The consultation will be open for a minimum of 12 weeks, and we encourage everyone interested to respond. There will be an online form to complete. You can complete as much or as little as you like, but the more responses we receive, the more comprehensive our review can be, and the better the outcome. If you want to be added to our mailing list for notification of the publication of our consultation paper, you can email coops@lawcommission.gov.uk, and just put that in the chat. Once the consultation period has closed, we will read all the responses, conduct any necessary further research and have any necessary further conversations, and then publish our final report, which will include our recommendations for law reform. It is up to government to decide whether or not to take forward our recommendations. Government does tend to act on our recommendations most of the time, and at the moment, this project has cross-party support. Sometimes our final report is accompanied by draft legislation ready for introduction to Parliament. We have probably considered around 100 proposals for reform to the law of cooperative and community benefit societies. This is not surprising, since the law has not been reviewed for decades, or in some parts, centuries. Most of those proposals are small but useful updates. There are perhaps two big topics of possible reform. First, whether the statute should provide a definition of a cooperative and a definition of a community benefit society, and if so, what those definitions should be. And second, whether reform is needed on the topic of shares, and if so, what the law relating to society shares should look like. When you respond to the consultation paper, you can respond to all the questions or only those where you have a personal interest. The consultation paper will be accompanied by a summary. This summary will also be published in Welsh. My current estimate for publication is mid-July. Now, I was given 10 minutes, but I've kind of said everything I was going to say. I'm happy when we get to the question and answer session to take up, to answer any particular questions anybody might have. But otherwise, I don't want to take up my time listing the 100 topics of law reform that we've been given. But I will be listening for the rest of this conversation. So anything that anybody says, I've got my pen and paper at the ready in case anybody wants to raise a point. And otherwise, I hope to hear from all of you when we publish our consultation paper. I'm just going to add to the chat, that is the project web page. It doesn't say much more than what I've said, but if you wanted to look it up, please go and have a visit. So thank you very much for listening.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Nathan, and a very succinct summary of the Commission. The Commission, of course, have been working on a number of projects with Welsh Government, and of course we have a large cooperative group within the Senedd as well, but more recently on issues around tribunal reform and, of course, agricultural reform law and so on. So thank you for that introduction. If I can now bring in Adrian Roper for the next contribution. Adrian has 40 years experience of social care in the statutory and voluntary sector. So 1981, lived as a volunteer co-resident with 5 people with learning disabilities liberated from Ely Hospital. He was an associate of Compass Foundational Economy Alliance for Wales Director and a Co-ops and Mutuals member. There is a longer history in the summary around Adrian, but if I can bring you in now, Adrian, are you there?
Hello.
Hello, Adrian, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well. We're over to you. The floor is yours for 10 minutes, Adrian.
Great stuff. Thanks very much. So, what the main thing I've been doing in the last 40 years before I retired was working for an organisation called Cartrefi Cymru, or to give it its full title, Cartrefi Cymru Cooperative Limited. It was established in 1989 to provide support for people with learning disabilities in Wales, and it was established as a charity and as a company limited by guarantee, and it still is a charity and company limited by guarantee, but with encouragement from myself and David Smith and others in Wales, it actually also became a cooperative in 2016. So we're a sort of Cartrefi Cymru is an interesting example of a different sort of cooperative, and I think it'd be interesting to think about the implications for a law review about a more inclusive and adaptive form of cooperative such as Cartrefi Cymru. So what I'm going to do is explain why we became a cooperative, what we did to make the change, some of the challenges we faced, the benefits so far, and a few thoughts about ideas for a good future for care co-ops. So the two main reasons why a charity like Cartrefi Cymru, operating very successfully, decided to become a cooperative, and the first and main one was that during this century and the last 10 years in particular, there's been a shift in thoughts about what makes good social care. You could sort of simplistically put it in terms of a shift from an old view that care was about doing good things to and for people, to a paradigm in which care is done with people, and it's massively shaped by the people for whom it's intended, so that they've got a strong voice and a real control over their care, and that they're actually contributors, not just recipients. So this is in the ether and driving, policy and legislative development in social care. And the logic of it was a shift from a top-down benevolent charity model to a bottom-up cooperative self-help and mutual help model. And that sort of shift in thinking was reinforced in Wales, especially with the Social Services and Wellbeing Act 2014, that explicitly promoted co-ops and other democratic membership structures, and it also encouraged collaboration and care which connects with communities, connects all stakeholders together. So that was sort of like the main reason why Cartrefi Cymru wanted to make the plunge and take the plunge and become a cooperative. The second reason was that we and others in social care have been suffering for about 25 years with the negative consequences of the introduction of a competitive market into care during the 1990s. It was creating, continual waste of effort and anxiety and uncertainty, disruption from doing a good job, a downward pressure on terms and conditions for staff, a distrustful bean counting. So Cartrefi was surviving and even thriving in being able to, meet the criteria for tenders and stuff, but we absolutely hated it. And wanted something better, and so an international movement for businesses which is based on cooperation was something that was very attractive, and we wanted to participate in the joys of Principle 6, cooperation between cooperatives, including ideally cooperation between providers and democratic local authority commissioners. So we just thought, if a big organisation like Cartrefi becomes a cooperative, it's sort of another, pebble in the pond to try and create ripples which remodel the social care environment as well as just doing the right thing for the people we support. So those are the reasons why we became a cooperative. What we did to make the change was engage Anthony Collins, LLP, as solicitors to look at our particular scenario and come up with some options, and they were able to identify that we didn't need to stop being a charity, which is just as well, because I frankly don't think the Charity Commission would have allowed us to wind up and transfer everything to something that wasn't a charity. So instead we changed our articles and embedded the cooperative principles into them. We created categories of membership, and also constitutionally, created a dynamic whereby the members elected a council of representatives who appointed the board. So actually, that sort of members' voice is right at the top of the pyramid of the organisation. We also went for a multi-stakeholder model, so that the people we support were members, but we also wanted employees, as too often unvalued care workers in the modern world, to be have the status of members and the voice and control as well. And we also pushed the boat out and went for a community supporter category because we wanted family, we wanted friends, we wanted people out there in the community to be able to come inside and work with us on making community connections. And we also, constitutionally, once we've got members, began to create local forums where people could participate in discussions and activities that were partly about, building a stronger care provider stroke co-op, but also about collectively helping to do good things out there in the community, building the communities around us. So in terms of challenges, internally, the board of trustees, it needed to agree to become accountable and to share power. So well done them for taking the plunge. Managers needed to accept the implications of member democracy. Members had to be recruited, and that has been and still is a challenge. Interestingly, the people we support, very quickly got the idea of becoming members and having voice and status and stuff. And so there's been no particular difficulty in recruiting members amongst the people we support, but employees is a bit more difficult. I mean, there's some suspicion that that we were potentially going to be asking them to make unpaid additional commitments on top of working really hard for not that much money as workers. But we still got a significant proportion of employees signing up, and also it's been difficult to get the sort of numbers we want in terms of community supporters. I think there is some resource implication about becoming an effective cooperative with this range of stakeholders in terms of capacity to engage and reach out and stuff, and that is still a work in hand, as it were. In terms of external challenges, I mean, there's been continual financial pressures affecting your ability to invest and put aside capacity for democracy and things like that. COVID was a complete disaster, and for nearly 2 years we had to shut down face-to-face activity, which is a nightmare for democracy and cooperation. But we're out the end of that tunnel, and things are kicking on again. So that's sort of moving into the external challenges side of things as well. I mean, the competitive marketplace has not gone away. We didn't unilaterally manage to shift that, but hopefully there is a slow process underway, and changes in government may assist in that. The funding of care is still inadequate, although God bless Mark Drakeford for investing in a policy in Wales for the real living wage for care workers. But we have discovered, and we're not the first ones to discover, that being a co-op doesn't create financial autonomy. We're still massively dependent on local authority commissioners who themselves are under a financial cosh. Looking slightly outside of ourselves, I mean, we've looked around, hoping to see a cooperative market develop, but it hasn't. And there's two sort of ways in which maybe it could. One is through startups, and I know the Wales Co-op Centre did a lot of work trying to get care startups going, and there's a real membership challenge around. You can't have a co-op without members, and the potential members of care co-ops are often fragile people, receiving support, needing support, or aging carers and so on, and it's been quite a hard ask to get people to form and run their own co-op. I mean, there's maybe wider issues about the way society's going and becoming more fragmented rather than collective in so many ways, which is not what we want. But the other option is transformation, which is what Cartrefi has done. And to date, other charities such as Cartrefi have not taken the plunge and joined us. There's a sort of there's a sort of a wide bother challenge there. It's obviously, it takes work, it takes money, and quite a lot of the benefits that I'm going to articulate now can be pursued without necessarily being a cooperative. So benefits, I mean, the people we support and who've got involved in co-op forums and elections and stuff, and sitting on the National Council, absolutely clearly feeling a stronger greater self-esteem, feeling more valued, feeling that they've got a voice and influence. The support staff, they're not that interested so much in their own sort of position, but actually they love to see the people they support sharing power and being respected. So there's a lot of support for Cartrefi's cooperative move by support staff on behalf of the people that they support.
Can I just come in quickly a second, Adrian? Only because of time. Can I just ask you to, in terms of summarising a couple of things, what do you think are the main challenges that you've got, or the main problems that you've experienced in terms of the legal framework that exists at the moment, in terms of all the work that you've been doing and trying to achieve? I wonder if you could do that. I think that might be quite helpful to understand.
Well, I'm sorry that I haven't gone in that direction. It's something that I sort of struggle because we are still a charity and company limited by guarantee that's embedded cooperation into our constitution. We haven't really had to bump up against the legal framework, the relevant legislation, which is under review. So from my perspective, I'm sure there are good things to be done in terms of the Law Commission's review, but I would like them to think to be thinking about the synergy between what they're trying to create in that legislation with other pieces of legislation, such as charity law and company law. Where are the organisations? I know Cliff Mills is going to talk a bit more about this later, but where are there are organisations who are values-based, not for private profit, for community benefit, but they're not sitting inside, community benefit and cooperative legislation. There needs to be some interface there, because from my perspective, I want to see, cooperation between cooperatives inclusive of those other organisations, and I want to see a shift in government policy for public service commissioning and procurement, and that actually might have legal implications as well, so that there's some intrinsic bias within public procurement in favour of socially responsible organisations that are committed to the people they support, their employees and community.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
I need to bring you to a conclusion. Thank you. I tempted you into going into a broader area as well, so it's partly my fault. But if I could just thank you there, Adrian, and of course there will be further contributions coming when we get to the discussion part later on.